Hey everyone, this is part two. This is the actual session that I just got done explaining how I did the drums, the tuning. If you go back to some previous videos, you're going to hear some of the mics I'm using and why I use them. So I'll try to elaborate on them, but not too much. This is really just about applying what I shared on drums, tuning, trying to make your recording sound a little bit more next level. I know I said pro, but I just really mean next level, sounding like what it would sound like if you went into a very nice big studio. There's a lot of care that goes into that between people that do that for a living all the time. So if you are a weekend warrior or you're just deciding on recording, this is all some very useful stuff. Even if you're not there yet in the equipment. I'm going to name off some mics you don't have. Don't worry about it. These mics can all be interchanged with other mics, less affordable. But this is what I worked for, and this is a real session. I didn't do a mock-up. I didn't bring some people in and tell them, hey, I'm trying to do this. This is like real deal people playing a band. You're going to hear some noise in the background. That's some of the glue that I talked about in a previous video about setting up a live performance. The information here is strictly just to see if everything worked, which I talked about. The drum breakdown is the kick is a Bach 195, also known as a Sound Deluxe 195. It's a FET, probably one of my greatest mics I have. Probably costs between $700 to $1,100 on eBay, but it's a wicked vocal mic. One of my favorite kick drum mics. It smokes what I've had. I've had a real FET 47, and I just got rid of it because the Bach just always delivered. So Bach's on the kick. There's a small mic that hangs over the top of the kick drum, which I shared, and it just hangs right above the beater. That's a Shure SM98. When I recorded my first record with Steve Albini, I flew back there and he gave me some drum tips on how to record. That was one of the tips that I still to this day, almost 20 something years later, still use it. I love it. It's for capturing the beater attack of the drum, and you blend it with the FET on the outside. It's incredible. I do sometimes put a mic inside. On this particular session, I wanted the more fuller kick drum, not a snappy kick drum. The snare is a 57. Hello. And bottom of the snare is a AKG P48, which is either a 70s or an 80s microphone. It was a series after EB, which is EBC12s had brass capsules, and they look like 414s, but they're silver. I had Heiserman put a custom capsule inside, which is a brass capsule. So I technically kind of have an EB C12, but it's a P48 AKG, also known as a 414, but it's this series before the Bulls BULS ones. Rock tom is an Audio-Technica 230, Audio-Technica 230 on the floor tom. The hi-hat is a vintage 60s Beatle era AKG 224E. It's the most amazing dynamic mic you can get, I believe. Spot mic is the same AKG, two of them. So I have one on the hi-hat, one on the ride. The overhead is a AKG 60s D24, known as the Frank Sinatra microphone, but also the internals are technically the Ringo Starr overhead. So I have a single overhead, which is a D24, but the internals are a D19, just different windscreen. Then the room is in Mojave MA37, which is made in the flavor of a Sony C37, which is a vintage, very dark microphone. So here's going to be the overhead of that session, and I'll start to build the drum set. That's the Frank Sinatra D24 single overhead. That's the Bach. That's the SM98. Both together. Gonna have the snare, bottom of the snare, toms, hi-hat, ride, Here's the rooms by themselves. Now I'm going to add the kick drum with that. All right. That sounds like a drum set. I hope that sounds like a drum set to you. If you're one of those sound replacer guys, you probably already left a long time ago. That doesn't sound like a drum set. These samples do. So anyways, I'm going to play this one more time, just kind of mess around with a few things that you can hear. So one thing I will say, there is a blend if you notice the way I'm doing the drums. I have the kick the loudest. The kick that hangs over the beater is probably right below the snare. So those are, to me, the alpha males are the most popular or the biggest things I want to stand forward. So I'll put those in, and then I'll start to bring in the drums around it. Now he's about to go into another section where he's going to strike everything louder, and this is where your set gets blown apart, but it held up well. So that's another example of you set your drum set up so it sounds really great during the verses, but it can handle some explosions like this. Wow. All right. Well, that was just drums. Obviously, this is part of a bigger recording, but our subject was setting up your studio, tuning the drums, taking the care, being aware of how hard the drummer is going to play, tuning of the snares, checking the kick drums, and then proper engineering, or at least engineering that is able to take low, smooth dynamics to blasting the crash. When I have bands play, I don't tell the drummers usually how loud or how low to play unless there's something really critically wrong, like they're not relaxing enough during the verses, or they need to bring it down, and that's not on a technical level. That's just like, hey, bring it down so it sounds really more impacting. That being said, you have to engineer expecting the worst. And so this is it. I hope you dug that. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment, and hopefully you got something from this that you learned. I'm definitely not saying this is the way to do it, but for me in my own studio, this works for me, and I'm always practicing to get better. There you go. Thanks a lot. Manny Nieto, Suplex Audio. Hope you have a great day or weekend.